Everybody smiles in the same language. A smile, let your light come shining through.
Welcome to the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. I'm Sandra M., coming to you from Santa Fe, New Mexico, the land of enchantment. I interview people from all parts of the world about what happiness means to them. What are they in love with? In each episode, we'll give you a key to happiness to include in your life. And of course, we'll play a happy tune from my live Celebrate Happiness Roadshow.
A smile doesn't cost you anything. But there's so much good.
Welcome to the second season of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And don't forget to catch up on any episodes from season 1 you might have missed. Well, hello, John. We're on episode 39 with Maleah Diaz, and this is the bio and closing. Take 1. Okay. Today we're talking with Maleah Diaz, a junior at the University of New Mexico, studying under the Jennifer Riordan Presidential Scholarship and pursuing a degree in secondary education with a focus in English language arts. After graduation, Maleah hopes to teach internationally and to pursue her master's degree. Born and raised in Silver City, New Mexico, Maleah graduated valedictorian of her class from Silver High School and participated in multiple extracurriculars, including volleyball, basketball, powerlifting, National Honors Society, National History Day, and Key Club. Currently, she is working at the university gym while playing on an intramural volleyball team with her co-workers. Maleah has made the Dean's List each semester while at UNM, and her writing has been published in the 2022-2023 edition of the Elevations textbook from the UNM Department of English. During the summer of 2024, she studied abroad in Italy. And this summer, she has been accepted to an international teaching apprenticeship in Cordoba, Spain. Maleah also enjoys playing piano, dancing, binge-watching her favorite shows, traveling, and spending time with her family and friends. Welcome, Maleah, to the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. I am so excited to talk with you about happiness. And why is it so important in your life?
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Sandra. I really appreciate it. So to start off, I think happiness in my life, I'll start with my dad. The one thing he always told me was to be grateful for the little things. So the cup of coffee in the morning or the sunrise, small things that we sometimes take for granted. I try to find happiness in those little things. And also, too, the big things are important as well. I find happiness in my family and spending time with my friends. But I think the times I find myself most joyful is when I take a step back and I see those moments kind of from an outside perspective, reflecting back on them. And I think the number one thing that brings me happiness is being able to have gratitude for the people in my life and also the opportunities such as this. I'm really, really grateful to be able to be on the show and talk with you today about happiness.
Oh, you've just said so many wonderful things already. Now, it's very important here because I know you're a young person. From my perspective, you're a young person, right? And you said, I'm most joyful when I take a step back and reflect. So I'm just wondering, what is that process like for you? Do you meditate? Do you just take time every evening to just sort of think over the day? Do you journal? How do you do that stepping back?
It's funny. I've journaled here and there a bit, but honestly, when I do take those steps back, it's honestly after a phone call with my mom, or a moment where I don't necessarily expect that burst of gratitude to come through, but it does. And just after something that makes me feel really fulfilled, and I kind of smile and I go about the rest of my day sort of thinking about that. And I guess I don't necessarily reflect on it so concretely as some others do by writing it down or committing it, but it comes unexpectedly for me. That's when I notice it most, or when I'm having fun with my friends and I just kind of sit back and listen to the conversation while everyone's chiming in. And I think I just have a lot of joy in those moments when I least expect it. And I think that's part of the beauty of it for me is almost I take it for granted sometimes. And so when I do recognize it, it's a really big thing for me. And I try not to take it for granted, but I think those moments where it's unexpected, but it comes to me, and those big moments of joy and burst, it's just amazing for me.
I love the way you say burst of gratitude. Do you have those bursts of gratitude a lot? Or would you just say, because I don't know you too well, but just from talking with you a little bit, you sound like a genuinely outgoing, love of life type of person, in love with life.
Yes, I definitely am. I always think that one of my biggest goals is to never take for granted the time I have. And I think sometimes I've noticed myself doing that. And so, yeah, I do tend to have those bursts of joy a little more often now, too, as I've gotten older, because all the things my parents used to tell me, and I would kind of shake it off and be like, yeah, like I can understand where you're coming from. But in truth, I don't think that I really experienced those things until I got older and I could understand where they were coming from. And so those things do happen for me. And I do have a joy of life. I'm always very ambitious. My goal is to go travel and see as many things as I can, but also to, in having those big ambitions, I think the people I meet along the way and those small moments of playing volleyball or laughing with coworkers, I think those are when those bursts of joy come in for me. And honestly, I find myself most happy when I'm busy. And sometimes, that's not always, it's not always easy, being super busy is, sometimes you barely have time to do laundry or breathe, but I love that. I love being so surrounded by other people that sometimes, it can be hard to find a moment for yourself, but I'm grateful that I have those opportunities.
Fantastic. I'm wondering now a little bit more about this whole concept of the Jennifer Riordan Presidential Scholarship that you had mentioned in your bio. So I do know a little bit about the Jennifer Riordan Foundation. And what is that scholarship for? How did that all come about?
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry, sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
So it was really interesting, actually. UNM has the general presidential scholarship, and so when I applied with 3 different essay prompts. And once I submitted and I was selected, I had no idea I was under Jennifer Riordan until my very first semester. UNM has us right to our sponsor. So they assign a sponsor to you based on your major and your interests. And very luckily, I got paired with the Jennifer Riordan Foundation and Michael Riordan, who is Jennifer's husband. And so that very first semester, I wrote to Michael not knowing the story or really much about the foundation, just knowing that they had given me his information and his contact information, his address, where to send the letter, and that was about it. And so I just wrote about my gratitude for his support in my academic journey, and that hopefully we would get to know each other more. And through that one letter, I learned about Jennifer, and I learned that I was the very first recipient of the scholarship in her name. And, you know, this thing that had come into my life, and it's really brought so much opportunity as far as, you know, being a student can be stressful, especially monetarily, you know, but in that, not only did I gain, you know, help in that sense, but I also gained a connection and an emotional connection with Michael, and as well as his sister, Jen, and everything. And so when I found out who the scholarship was for Jennifer, and the story behind everything, I was really hit emotionally. And so through that, Jen reached out to me, Jen Riordan, Jan Riordan, she reached out to me, and we got to talking a little bit more, and I did an interview with her. And so from there, I got the scholarship. I got connected with them through UNM, but I've really been able to build my own relationship with them past this scholarship. And I'm so extremely grateful for the orchestration of everything. So Jen was focused on education and woman empowerment. And also her mantra is kind, loving, caring, and sharing. And so because I was going into education, I was selected for the scholarship. And so I feel like everything just kind of timed really well. And, you know, it's really easy for someone as busy as Michael, or for them as a family who are running this organization as well as living their regular lives, to, you know, write to me every once in a while and that be it, and, you know, just connect through, you know, the transaction of the scholarship. But they've really taken the time to take me under their wing and talk to me and get to know me as a person. And so I've just been really extremely grateful for their presence in my life and through the emotional support and financial support in my academic journey.
Wow. So do you feel that they're sort of mentoring you in some ways around this concept of kindness, loving, caring, and sharing?
Definitely. I think a big point of growth for any person in their life is 18 to 22. When you're living these years, you know, you're figuring out who you are on your own. So I do believe I'm definitely a different person. I have some same beliefs, but I am a different person as far as my own self-understanding and things from when I was 18. And so I do believe they've really mentored me and taken me under their wing as far as kindness, loving, caring, and sharing, and what that means in education and just in general. I mean, I see, even when I went to the ballpark the other day in Jennifer's name, I see the different things their organization is doing and how they're helping out the community. And out of one tragedy born is an entire movement in the name of someone who obviously was reflecting so many beautiful traits and qualities. And so I think they've definitely mentored me in following Jen's mantra and steps, as well as just really had a conversation with me and been beautiful people in building me up.
That sounds fantastic. And I'm really excited to find out a little bit more about what's going on in college in terms of preparing to be a teacher. Is that what you want, to be a teacher?
Yes, I do want to teach internationally eventually, but yes, my goal is to be a high school teacher.
High school. So that would be like junior or senior high school?
I would say junior and senior, yeah. So probably, or senior high school, like, yes, grades 9 through 12. I want to be an English teacher.
Right, an English teacher, which is so important. And so I'm just interested, I think is Jan also into the world of education? Jan Riordan?
Yes, she's also an educator herself, actually. I do believe she's focused now on primarily helping out with the foundation, but she's a retired educator.
So if we're going to, I just would love to know if you have any thoughts about how you would bring the concept of kindness, loving, caring, and sharing, which I think is so vitally important, to just general communication between people in the high school environment, because that's a pretty usually closed environment, isn't it? I mean, people are trying to figure out who they are. There's a lot of competition. And then we have to deal with this whole social media aspect of teenage years. And so how would you bring in that concept of kindness, loving, caring, and sharing? Have you given any ideas on that?
You know, actually, as I've gotten further into my education journey and getting closer to student teaching, I've thought about that a couple of times. And so I do agree with you. I think at this point in this day and age, being a teenager can be very tough with that added concept of competition and social media. I think there's always this need to compare yourself to one another. Comparison is, and you know, comparison can be the root of many evils for yourself and for others, you know. And so I think one way I would definitely emphasize kindness and also just overall appreciation of each other in my classroom. I've had a couple of teachers who, I don't know if their concept was necessarily to introduce kindness, but in a way, by getting to know all of my classmates, I had one teacher who would, he would have us do, each of us would take turns doing a presentation for 5 minutes at the beginning of the class every day. And it wasn't necessarily a traditional one. It was your favorite candy or your favorite song, different things like that. And so we were not forced, but we were required to present 5 times within the semester. And so through getting to know these kind of interpersonal things or traits of one another and what we liked, I think we were able to grow closer and talk to one another. So I think the big thing is garnering appreciation, whether that be culturally, things like that. And so I think what I would want to introduce in my classroom is a lot of small group and large group discussion. I think those are big things, and be able to create empathy and also emphasis on how your experience translates with the material that we're learning. I think every person's going to have a different perspective on the learning material based on their own individual lives, backgrounds, and experiences. And so I think be able to kind of encourage that inclusion in the classroom will allow students to empathize with one another.
Fantastic. So when you say a conversation around their own personal ideas around, if you're teaching English, would you be doing English literature? Are you talking about English grammar? What are you talking about when you say English teacher?
Yeah, of course. So I think English teachers, that would be composition, grammar, and literature. So it's kind of a combination of 3. But I think in order to promote, one's own individual ideas, I think a lot of it would be related to the literature, connecting to the literature on a personal level with your experiences, as well as the connections you made or what you analyzed within the literature. So if your take on the text is similar to one another or different, vice versa, I think there can be kind of, nice discourse, respectful discourse on maybe your disagreements or the things you guys found in common. So in an English sense, I think you can find a way to tie children's own experience similarly to the text, but also with each other. I think the classroom's a really important place. So I think material is very important, and a lot of times we're taught to teach as much as we can in a semester, but I think one of the things I really want to incorporate in my classroom is also taking a couple minutes a day here or there to maybe not necessarily focus on the material, but on one another and what's going on. We don't have to share if we're not comfortable, but just talk about what's going on around us, maybe in the world or events in school, things like that. I don't think it always has to be I don't think I always have to be the person extending knowledge. I think a lot of people can learn from each other. So yeah, I would like to give those opportunities for open discussion.
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
Right. I do think people learn from each other and very easily. And so my thought is, even with this podcast that I'm doing, I am just asking people to talk about their personal happiness, which I'd like to get to, because you did mention that gratefulness is very important, joy. I know that in your introduction you do so many things. One of them, powerlifting. I'm thinking, whoa, what is powerlifting? So all of these various things make you happy. And if we could share what is personal for you that makes you happy, other than, as you just said, being grateful for the little things and the large, the more substantial things in your life, like getting this wonderful scholarship, etc., and going to Europe. I think you said you studied in Italy, right, in 2024, and traveling. But why does that make you so happy? What happens inside of you? Can you articulate that?
Yeah, of course. So I think one of the primary things that happens for me is, I also I do play piano, and I think that is one of my prime stress relievers. When I'm feeling really sad or down, sometimes I'll just sit at the piano and maybe cry or feel the keys kind of rolling off my fingers. And I think it's a really important way to be emotive and express your feelings. And so I think one of the big things that I've learned in order to feel happiness within inside of me is also knowing that it's okay sometimes to not feel 100% and know that I am going to be okay. And so in doing that and giving myself some grace, sometimes I have to put on a good movie and cry out all the toxins. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I do have to do that. And so inside of me, I think being able to take a breath where I am, even if I feel overwhelmed or things are kind of, going crazier up in the air, I think knowing that I can rely on the people around me to talk my feelings out and just kind of get out the bad so that I can feel the good again and feel grounded in my relationships and what I'm going through is really important to me, and knowing that I have that support. And one of the biggest things for me is I definitely have to talk out the way I feel. I have to verbalize it. And so I can tell you I'm a 21-year-old woman, but my poor mom gets at least 5 calls a day.
And I bet you she loves it because she's connected to you. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I just love this concept of, because I am a performer myself and I write, and I was in show business for a very long time. And so, of course, that's all about expressing your feelings, right? And I do think that going back to your concept of being in the classroom and allowing people to really share their perspectives on anything. I mean, let's just talk about what's going on in the world today, right? Use your good grammar, etc., or write a composition around that so that people get into the habit of really sharing their feelings. Because I think a lot of people, and I'm going to ask you what you feel about this, younger people I have been interacted with, I find that they have a difficulty in sharing their feelings. They don't think it's okay. They think that maybe they'll be wrong, they'll be judged, they'll be criticized or bullied or whatever. So is it hard for younger people? I'm talking about, again, your high school people that you would be teaching to share?
I definitely think it is. And I think there's a big problem around the idea of, well, if you are emotive or reactive, you're deemed kind of, how would I put it? I don't think people feel free to be able to show that kind of emotion in public. And so when they are and someone else does it, it's almost like, oh my gosh, why are you doing that? And as you said, you're a performer, so that's your job, and I'm definitely going to have to ask you about that in a bit, but yeah, and I think there's certain spaces where people feel either more restricted or more free to share their emotion, and so I think it almost takes someone to be able to break that mold and do it first in order in the classroom, in order for people to feel free to do that. And if that has to be me as an educator, then I'm willing to, I'm not going to, it's not a therapy session, but at the same time, I don't think I'm going to be afraid to share that I also go through my own things as an educator, or happy things, sad things, it can be anything. And so, but in that environment, it is harder. And I've noticed too, even with my own brother, he's younger, if I just kind of share my own things and give him the space rather than kind of prompting him or asking him or prying too much, he tends to share on his own. And so I think going about it on my own and being able to express that I can share with my students and giving them that space to, and if they choose not to, that's okay, but giving that space for it to be acceptable, at least in my classroom. I don't have much control over everything else, but the one thing is, as long as it's in my classroom, I think that is a space to feel okay. And they don't have to give details. They don't have to do any of that. But just if they're scared about what's going on in the world politically or climate, or if it's personal things, anything like that. And I want to be able to kind of create that environment where it's okay. And like I said, if it has to be me first, then so be it,
Right. Listen, role modeling is really important. I can remember Miss Robertson, and I'm quite a bit older than you, and Miss Robertson was my third grade teacher. And I can remember to this day, I didn't come from a happy background in my life, and so I sort of attached myself to teachers in a way. I looked to them for guidance. And Miss Robertson was such an independent woman, and she was so smart, and she did say her opinions about things. This was only in third grade, right? But still, I looked at her and I went, I am going to be just like Miss Robertson. I am going to be as intelligent as her. I'm going to study hard. I'm going to be independent. I mean, I just took her on as a role model. So that's how important teachers really are, especially to people who don't have, let's say, positive family backgrounds, that kind of thing. And I also think you just touched on something that is very important, that if people are able, children, young people, are able to share in a classroom and feel that they have permission to do so, that means that they feel that they have the right to be heard. And I have another business which I teach people how to speak, mostly corporate executives and so forth, who are at least 50 and over. And I can't tell you how many people really don't feel they have the right to be heard. So just letting people feel permission to talk about their own feelings and ideas. And here's another thing. People think, I'll just tell them what I think. So they just say words, right? But the truth is, when you're talking, it's not only just what you're thinking or what you're saying, but the feeling goes along with it. I mean, people don't realize that their voice actually translates the feeling that they have around what they're saying. So I think you were right on target with this whole idea of sharing in the classroom, because then people are more aware and more willing to share in community organizations, to stand up for what they think, and et cetera, and express themselves. It's so important, as you said, very, very important in a respectful way, right?
Yes, I definitely agree. And back to your point, too, even with people who are a bit older, I think sometimes we're taught that emotion can be a negative thing. Showing emotion can take away from the validity of your message. But in fact, we're humans. I think we're run on emotion. No matter what views you hold, whether it be on your family or on politics, on different things, you have your view based on your emotions, and different emotions are going to come with that, that revelation, the sharing of those. And so I think, and this is obviously a bigger conversation from just you and me, but I think it's so amazing that we're having it, because I don't think that it's a bad thing to have emotion when it comes to these sorts of things. And so if that were to be promoted a little more, I think that would be amazing, because in truth, we are human beings. We do feel emotion, and no matter what, whether we're angry, sad, upset, or even happy, that's going to come through in the message we're communicating. And so rather than it being a weakness or something to take away, I think it should be an asset.
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry, sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
Yes. Okay, so we all have emotions, and now the next level is give yourself permission to feel those emotions, to express those emotions in a safe environment. And then, as the Dalai Lama, who I like to follow, I have followed him for years, he talks about we have to learn to what? Handle our emotions. So in America, we talk about emotions as if it's like some, big cauldron of feelings, etc.
Yeah.
And then we'll say anger. Well, in his world, they break down anger to different states of different mental states of feeling. So anger can break down into many different areas. So we have to become more aware of our feelings, and not only how to express them, but also how to control them or to handle them so that they don't, hurt ourselves, hurt other people. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I definitely agree with you. I think everything in moderation is always the key. And so I think it's important to describe how things affect you emotionally, but I also, like you said, agree that you can't let it get the best of you, that you end up bringing in other aspects or hurting people with the things you say. I think emotion exemplifies passion, and so that's important, but I think you can't let your passions get in the way of your respect in conversation or consideration of all the different aspects of things going on. You may have different people in a room with different opinions, and if you're going to berate them with anger, you're not going to clearly communicate your message. You can have anger within you, and you can express passion through that and express how it may affect you, but you cannot kind of reflect that onto others. I think, like you said, it's really important to control your emotions while also acknowledging that it's okay to feel those things. Emotion doesn't make you weak. However, there's limits to everything.
Yes. I want to go back to just saying, yes, I have gotten a really sad movie and a tub of ice cream, right, and just cried my eyes out and so forth. But the other thing I also love to do is I have a list of my favorite comedy movies, and so I just change my state of mind by going into a comedy movie. It just changes a lot of things, even your physical illnesses and that sort of thing, just the way you're going to heal out of something, HEAL, heal out of something. So I just want to bring that forward. And then I just wanted to thank you so much. I'm wondering if there's any last thoughts or comments or ideas that you want to say about happiness and empathy and kindness. It's just been a wonderful conversation. I think you are fantastic. You are going to be a fantastic teacher and change, well, dare I say change the world. I know we do that one student at a time, but still, teachers are so vitally important. So I will ask you, what do you want to leave us with?
I just want to leave you guys with, first of all, the message of thank you so much for listening, and also, too, that happiness is a complex thing, but altogether, I think finding ways that make you individually happy. Not everyone's going to experience the same things that make them happy. Everyone doesn't find joy in the same things. And so finding what works for you is really important. Thank you to everyone who is listening. And last but not least, thank you so much, Sandra, for bringing me on the show and giving me this opportunity. I've been so overjoyed to just hear about your experiences and mine and how they align together, and also to our views. And I think, although we haven't really talked much before, I think we're very similar people in a sense, and in certain aspects. And so I wait to just continue to build on our friendship and definitely hear more about you as a performer. For sure. I'm so excited to hear more about that. So thank you so much, and everyone who helps out with the show, and for the listeners, most of all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maleah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Weekly Key to Happiness 16. Explore meditation. Meditation can involve movement, focus, spirituality, or a combination of all three, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as sitting quietly for 5 minutes every day, or deep breathing exercises done on a regular basis.
Newsflash. Please sign up for your copy of our Keys to Happiness at sandramcknight.com. Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And if you've enjoyed the conversation, please help spread the word by sharing with your friends and family. Before we go, I'd like to thank today's guest, Maleah Diaz, for sharing her happiness story. And to share your happiness story on the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast, send an email to sandra@sandramcknight.com.
Turn your smile on, you can't go wrong. You'll find that love is all around.